And go blue, everybody. Revenge successfully achieved. The Paul Bunyan Trophy remains in Ann Arbor. My name is John Diadamo, and I'm going to be your host for the next 40 minutes or so. Final score of this game, so cathartic. Michigan 49. Michigan State, how much? How much? Oh, nothing. And without further ado, the only thing I'm going to ask you to do before I bring on my co-host is please like, please subscribe, and tell a friend that we're live. And without further ado, the man himself, Dre, is back with us. Go blue, Dre.
Go blue. Sorry, guys, that looked weird because of how the things cut out. Love the one.
A little pixel.
Yeah, go blue, man. This is one of those incredibly satisfying, wins. I text Des actually.
Oh,
one of the former, hosts of the show as well.
Yeah.
And, I was like, man, I want to choke them out. I didn't want. This is earlier this week. I was like, I really just want to stomp them down, not just win. I want winning. I wanted to stomp them out, and man, my boys did it today. I didn't care. I had no sympathy for their situation and all that. You know what? Because the hell with that. Because when we have gone through our ups and downs with coaching and having incredible, we didn't have necessarily a scandal that caused a coach to have to depart in the middle of the season, but we're not even in the middle, at the beginning of the season. But we had boob head coaches and Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, and who had this program as low as it's ever been, and they didn't give us, state fans didn't give us any kind of grace. So I'm not giving them grace either.
Yeah, I'm gonna be leaving the score up a minute because it's just beautiful to look at.
Absolutely.
This might be the most lopsided game in the rivalry in a long time.
Yeah, it has to be pretty close. I mean, what's interesting is that there wasn't even, everyone has used, the right word, dominance. I mean, that go. I mean, the score is. It's rare. How can I put this? The score is one thing, right? But when you watch the game, there was never anything positive that State was able to do. Not even for a drive. Sometimes teams
they forced a punt once.
But forced a punt.
One time.
Other than that, it was nothing went right for them, and all that credit goes to Michigan. I mean, Michigan totally dominated them. But only reason I'm bringing State's perspective in it because brought up the rivalry in general, and no, definitely, John. I mean, I'm in my lifetime, I can't recall a game like this. Even when State got the best of us pretty good, and I think in 13 and 14 when we had to go there back-to-back years with Devin Gardner, and those were some really rough games for us. And State dominated those games, but the score didn't look like the way it does now. I mean, I can't recall anybody doing it. Yeah, man, it definitely feels good to be on this side for sure.
It does, and that's why I'm saying take number one is sit back and enjoy the historic ride, because I think no matter what happens we know that almost the entire offense is gone next year.
For sure.
The defense is mostly coming back, but almost the entire offense is gone except Colston Loveland, a few others, Tyler Morris, Ben Hall. But for the most part, you've really got to just take some time, everybody here, and just enjoy the fact that this is happening. Put on your Woodson. I got my Woodson jersey on right now, and I put that on when it's something like this. It's like a big rivalry game. I know we were favored by a lot, but you just got to sit back and enjoy. We don't have, Michigan doesn't have an offense like this normally. JJ is a special quarterback.
They haven't had a quarterback like this. Maybe, and Jim, look, sometimes Harbaugh can say things. He's always been a player's coach in terms of he gives his players a lot of props. He's always had them take the
Yeah.
spotlight in post-game interviews. He's very complimentary, especially for star players in press conferences. But and he went on and say that JJ could be the best quarterback in program history, and I think he's really on the way to doing that. Not only from a record standpoint, but just the eye test. I mean, I don't know if they've had a kid who can be a dual threat quarterback the way that JJ has. I mean, I can't recall.
Yeah.
Maybe guys who have the talent but never could quite put it all together. But JJ, I mean, dude, I mean, the throws that he was making today, I mean, hell, I mean, so some of the incompletions weren't even his fault. They were just, drop passes. I mean, he threw a dime to, I think it was Morris, and it was almost like video game 99 accuracy. Morris is sliding to the ground and he just drops it, but hits him right in the numbers. I mean, it like throws that pros struggle to make.
Yeah.
He was spectacular. I mean, the way he read the field, he made all the right decisions besides one. He
should have threw one
right.
out. Yeah.
The typical JJ trying to do a little bit too much, but for the most part, he was essentially perfect. John, he was perfect tonight, and he seems to be a guy, which is a great sign for Michigan, that's really hitting his stride as the season continues to go forward. Yeah, I mean, Roman Wilson getting his 12th touchdown already this year. I mean, it's insane.
Caleb who?
Hey, man. It's nice like tonight. Look, we talked about this from a stylistic standpoint. The quarterback, no matter who's the quarterback for Michigan, rather how good or bad they are, it's going to be very hard to statistically match the better quarterbacks around the country just because of how Michigan runs their offense, right? But if you watch just the eye test, JJ is playing it as well as anybody else in the country. Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Drake May, you can throw anybody else out there. No one is playing a level of ball that guy. I mean, no one is playing legit like significantly better than that guy right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, the way JJ is throwing the ball and running, you put him in an offense that is a lot more, I guess, more explosive or whatever it is. His stats be just like those guys are. That's the way he looks right now.
Absolutely. Moose reminding everybody to check out the merch store. Obviously, we've got Michigan football merch as well as Voice of College Football merch, top 25 that actually makes sense, all kinds of stuff out there. So the link is right there. No excuses, everybody. At least go and check it out. If you don't get anything, at least check it out. But you should consider getting something because there's pretty much something for any situation, no matter where you are. If you're freezing, if it's 100 degrees, there's something for you in the merch store. But yeah, if the starters had stayed in, so here's the thing with that, and we're gonna tackle this next because I do want to keep talking about JJ a bit because he really is, I think, next level. But Belisari makes an interesting point. If the starters had stayed in, it would have been like 77-0, or Moose said 70-0. I mean, yeah, but we also have to look at the way that MSU was playing towards the end of the game.
Very chippy,
It was bad. 58. Obviously 58 had that late hit. There was a hit on Corum. At least they did it in game this time, but you do not want your starters in the fourth quarter of this game. I'm sorry. Get them out.
Yeah. Game with that, they also get very chippy. You have one team that they're getting their butts handed to them, national TV, at home in the biggest rivalry game. So, you start to see a team, I think, was just obvious that guys just lost their composure and were frustrated, and that I will be a human being and not just a Michigan fan and say that there's a part of me I can sympathize with that.
Sure.
That's tough. That's really tough especially the way that Michigan plays. Michigan's a very physical football team. So not only are they beating you on the scoreboard, but they're wearing you down. And so you get to a point where you're just like, man, I can't take this anymore. And you start doing stupid stuff. So I completely agree with you, John, that, it's sometimes you gotta protect your guys. Hey, you know what? This game's get a little chippy. This game's well within hand. Let's not even risk it. And incredibly, testament to the second and third and fourth string guys that got in there. Because think about it, the starters were pulled midway through the third quarter. So I mean, that was a lot of football left to play. Almost 20 minutes left to play in the game, and the backups did a solid job, maintaining at the very least the dominance in that football game.
Yeah, the only starter that was still in at the 5-minute mark of the third quarter was Cornelius Johnson. Played one more series, but everyone else was a backup. So I guess Cornelius might have wanted maybe a couple more catches.
Yeah. He's playing the receiver position. He's not like he's a lineman or a running back where he's going to get banged up on. Man, I want to shout out. It's a whole bunch of guys I love to shout out. I mean, Mike Sanders, continues to be clearly the leader of this defense, and making big time plays. Another pick six today.
We'll just skip around on the takes. Here it is. Mikey Sanders still with another pick six, and McBurrows gets revenge.
How funny is that? Where the like that's it's funny how things come back around. And good for him. I'm sure that felt really, really good, considering last year. I actually caught. I don't know if and maybe there was somebody in the stands. I could have sworn I saw JJ kind of waving to them as to MSU as they're walking up the field. So look, man, this is what comes from a rivalry like this, and when you beat a team that thoroughly, especially at the last year, and I know before the season kicked off, there was a lot of local talks about how got flexed tonight, that even though Michigan was perceived to be the better football team, that MSU had a pretty good puncher's chance to get them. Maybe they were exception in and all this other stuff, and it didn't matter. Michigan said, "Nope, you're bad. We're really good, and we're not even going to make this. Forget this whole like rivalry emotion boost. Like, no, there is no boost. It doesn't matter what you do. We're destroying you." And thoroughly and emphatically, especially with what's been going on this past week. That's another impressive thing too, John. To show their maturity and leadership, not allowing outside noise to be distractions, and in fact, I would assume using it as motivation just to prove points, to prove a point. They're just how dominant they are, and they don't need certain things that are said about them to determine the type of football team they are.
Yeah, and so a couple other defensive honorable mentions. Obviously Sanders still and McBurrows with the picks, but how about Josiah Stewart with a couple of really big plays, including a sack.
Absolutely. John, one of my biggest concerns was when Anoma left last year in the portal, because he was a guy who really came on last year.
Right.
It became a really good pass rusher, and we knew that Michael Morris is leaving, and the loss of the big. Why am I losing? Why am I drawing a blank on the big fella?
Mozzie
Smith. Yeah. Like that was some pretty big losses, and I was concerned. But okay, I know Mason Graham is good. I know that Jenkins is very solid, but who are going to be the guys that really stepped up? And Grant's been one of those guys. McGregor. Like I said, Stewart. So I'm seeing those guys that pass rush, which is really important, especially when you go against the be more potent offense. Even though granted, what I see from Ohio State or Penn State today didn't look very impressive earlier. You're going to need that at some point. So good to see.
Yeah, we've talked about the defense being very systematic, and they keep rotating guys. At one point, they said on the screen it was like 10 different defensive linemen were in, and they were rotating them out. Chris Jenkins had a couple of good plays as well. He always does, veteran on the team. So from a defensive perspective, it was pretty much lights out. Defense did everything you could ask, because you know what? Michigan State didn't score a single point. So, you get multiple pick sixes to add off touchdowns to the score, and you pitch a shutout. Defense did everything you could possibly ask for, I think, tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they never let Peyton Hunter get comfortable. They were in his face. They forced him to make mistakes. And like I said, it's just a game like this, man. It's, I mean, hell, I would say this game was more dominant than the quote unquote cupcake games they had earlier this year. I mean, this is literally their most dominant game. I don't have to really dive in see statistically the differential. But I know definitely from the eye test, this was easily their most dominant game all around. And considering that, this being one of their biggest rivals, that's saying something. So, yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we're about to go to the offense again. I wanted to show you this. I don't know if you've seen the yardage yet, Dre.
Holy, that is insane.
But you want to talk about dominance? I mean, this is worse than Nebraska, Indiana, Minnesota. I mean, like everybody we've played, this is the worst differential. Like 477 to 186 total yards. A lot of it coming in the air because they can't stop Michigan in the air.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God, you're talking about two tight end monster between Barner and Loveland. I mean, like they absolutely just dominated. AJ Barner being another transfer portal guy. The guy that he came from Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, right? Another big time pickup in the transfer portal.
Barner and Tuttle both came from Indiana, yeah.
Yeah, and making not just playing, John, but making a huge impact. I can't say I did not anticipate AJ Barner being that big of an impact on offense. Thought he'd be like kind of a backup guy to Loveland, but he's showing that. I just watched him too. He has some ability. It's incredible to see.
There was one play in particular where I think a lot of tight ends would probably just fall down and just take it at that point. Barner has like another little stutter step and like gains another couple yards there. Like that's a wide receiver level move. Yeah. And I think I was waiting for him to break out because I knew I knew he would at some point. He was going to become more of a clutch option and not just a blocker. And we're starting to see it these last couple of games, and especially this one where he was literally number one in receiving yards out of everybody on the team.
That's incredible. Well, just think about it from a weapon standpoint. So, in no particular order, I think guys who have solidified themselves being weapons. Of course, you got Roman, you got Blake Corum.
Sure.
In there, something seems to be off. Now, I'll put of course, Colston Loveland, CJ, Roman Wilson, obviously, AJ Barner, Morris. I could be missing somebody, but it was like the main was six. That's his name was 6 or 7 guys who were legitimate, weapons in their particular roles on this team. And I think what Sharon Moore has done so well is that he's allowed everyone he spread the love, essentially, especially in the passing game. And the running game is obvious. Blake's still the hammer. He's going to get the bulk of the carries. I thought it was interesting that, and I don't know, yeah, I missed. Is Mullings hurt right now?
Yeah,
he is. Okay. I was wondering why Donovan was back into the fold of being a second guy, but yeah, overall, man, it's can't say enough, about how they look, and they're gonna be tough for a lot of teams. I watched that game between Penn State and Ohio State pretty thoroughly earlier today. And look, I do want to be careful because for the most part, it was a pretty tight game. The score is a little bit deceiving. It was a 1-score game majority of that game. And I want to be careful not to get too caught up in the score because I couldn't tell, was it just spotty quarterback play on both sides or just really good defensive play on both sides? The answer is probably in the middle.
Yeah.
I do think Ohio State's defense, for what I've seen what I've seen from the Notre Dame game and now Penn State, they have improved. But from a quarterback perspective, between Drew Aller and and McCord, I can confidently say that JJ McCarthy is legitimately better than both those guys.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's Emil or Emily, or let me know if I butchered that. But thank you for your $1.99, and I'll just read the whole thing. It looks like we beat PSU Ohio easily after today, and like you were saying, Dre, I think a lot of that had to do with elite defense on both sides of the ball. Both of their defenses look fantastic, and I think that was more the factor than. Ohio State especially has an offense. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is the second overall pick in the draft. I don't think it's close.
Yeah,
Caleb's probably still first, but MHJ lock for second pick in the draft. Sure. There's going to be like 10, 15 NFL teams that want that guy. I mean, any NFL team probably want that guy, but they can't. There's salary caps and all that. But yeah, I mean, they will have an offense. They're going to have an offense against Michigan. But guess what? They also had an offense in 2021, and they had an offense in 2022.
Absolutely.
And they had a better quarterback then than they have now.
I think so too. You know, but to be clear, watching the game, it didn't. I still am picking Michigan to win both those games. I just think that Michigan right now is playing the most balanced football on both sides of the ball. They have the leadership, they have the continuity, they have the confidence, they have the culture. They just sometimes, John, when you watch sports long enough, you tend to notice when a team looks like a championship team, like it's their year. And I just think this team just look like just one of those teams. Like they just everything's going right for them. Things are clicking. Everybody's locked in. Everybody's focused. There's a common goal, and they're all coaching. Like we're not having previous years we'll have like wonky offense at times, and maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, the whole coordinator thing. And no, it seems to be a uniformed approach from everyone. Everybody's on the same page, and yeah, man, they look like the best team in college football. They may not be on paper the most talented team. I mean, they don't get other guys from down south and all that. I mean, I'm sure if you did a pool of recruiting rankings and all this other stuff, would Michigan be number one? Probably not. They'll do fine. But the way they're playing, I think they're playing better, just as good as anybody, if not better.
Absolutely. And of course, when you talk about culture, you talk about the rebuild that Michigan State is probably going to need here. In 2020, Michigan's culture needed a rebuild.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 wins. Had a defensive coordinator who got figured out years ago. It just seemed like they needed to get rid of some of the toxicity in the locker room. They turned the culture to more of a player-led culture, where Jim Harbaugh is letting especially the captains, like the seniors, really have more of a say in how things are run. And I think changing that shift, firing Don Brown, bringing in Mike McDonald, calling his brother up, bringing in Mike McDonald and then Jesse Minter after that. Changing up the offense a bit. Clearly, there was a culture shift there. Now it seems like it's Michigan State's turn for a complete culture rebuild. And so when people say Urban Meyer, I don't think that's what they're going to need for a complete culture rebuild. So,
yeah. Well, look, man, unfortunately, I mean, I would say Michigan hit. Yeah, I guess you could say we hit rock bottom on the Brady Hope. I mean, it is pretty low. But that's they like you said, John, they need a complete rebuild. I mean, I think the biggest thing that they're missing, and I know this because there's a point Michigan was missing this at one point as well, this identity. No, it's
Mhm.
really hard to be competitive if you don't have an identity. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because there's a huge distinction now between the Big Three and the Big Ten East, and then everybody else. And now with the expansion and more teams coming in to the Big Ten, it's going to be imperative for the powers that be over there in East Lansing to do something so they don't get left behind. The good thing is, that's not, being Michigan fans, we seem to be the haves. And I think even if, like, some way, if Jim decides to move on uh, this year or next year or whatever that may be, I think they're in a really good spot with their coaching staff, with how they're recruiting right now, with that solidified culture, that they're going to be fine going forward.
And I haven't really made a lot of commentary. So I did call into Mark the other day when the news broke about the signals,
Right.
Signal Gate. We have Burger Gate. Now we have Signal Gate. And
Right.
so my last take here is, well, hiding the signals didn't seem to help Michigan State much tonight. Or, by the way, apparently Ohio State, before the 2022 game, changed all their signals
Yeah.
to prevent any studying of them or whatever the case may be. And then Michigan did what it did anyway and beat Ohio State by 23 points. I'm just going to leave that there. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on this situation, but it's looking more and more like something's a little fishy.
Well, look, I was not on the channel when the news broke, so I'll give my quick 2 cents this way.
Yeah.
For one, when you see former players, I'm not necessarily saying former Michigan players, just people who have been in the game of football, like J.J. Watt, NFL players, coaches, or whatever, and they see this news and they say essentially that this is like BS. Like, why is this even a thing? Then that should give you a pretty good clue about, forget like how big of a problem it really is. Look, I can't say for certain if Michigan overstepped the boundary or not. I think that will be taken care of in terms of information being released over time. But what I will say is that if there's no, I think there's absolutely no bearing on the impact of winning, that whatever they did or didn't do actually affected the field. It's so I don't. I think what you're seeing is the NCAA, who has a very tumultuous relationship with Jim Harbaugh, and were upset about either his comments or how Michigan decided to handle the first investigation for Burgergate, if you will. That now I'm just going to say it. To me, it just seems like a witch hunt.
Yep.
And they're trying to find anything they can. I'm sure they have had. It's not that, I know it sounds scatterbrained, but I'm trying to put this right. It's not that Michigan may not have done anything that's against the letter, the rules, but I guarantee you, John, they're not the only program that have done something like this. Okay, I think it's the many amount of, I'm sure, complaints and things that NCAA could investigate. I'm sure that the University of Michigan football team is not the first that they've heard about doing this. But I can tell you this: a chance to go at Jim Harbaugh again amidst a national championship type run of a season. It just seems all too convenient for me. So that's what's really aggravating for me as a Michigan fan, is that it seems like a witch hunt. It seems like like they're nitpicking, and just trying to just derail, a really good season. And if they had their way, even though Jim is very, very stubborn, they'll try to get him essentially pressure to just leave. Not terminate. They couldn't do that, but say, hey, we're gonna keep bothering you and keep bothering you until you just want to do something else with your life. That's my 2 cents. and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, and I talked about this a little bit with Mark when the news broke. He went live, and based on what I've looked at so far, this guy Connor Stallions. So he was a retired Marine Corps captain, and was hired as an off-field analyst by Michigan in May of 22. And the NCAA said that he was a person of interest. And from what I understand, what he was able to do was, and again, we don't know the extent of how he learned the signals. We don't know if he just watched, because the game film that you get now from opponents, it's not like it's not like VCR tape. It's like 1080p quality, like really good quality game film, and you can find a lot just from watching the film alone. So the question of, was there more than that? He also apparently in-game, which is completely legal, in-game was looking at the opponent's signals and saying, okay, yep, they're doing this, this, and that. I've seen that before. And then they dialed in how to beat it. If it was done within the law, and then I would expect the NCAA to start to walk this back. Now, they're never going to say, I apologize. They'll never do that. But what they might do is issue a further statement saying, this is very preliminary. We heard some reports. We are just following up on those reports. They may walk back the severity, because the amount of heat that they're getting on this, you're going to, like, if there isn't evidence shown, there could be some serious ramifications, because Michigan, they have really good lawyers. And if there isn't hard evidence that they did this, there could be a legal battle, because at some point enough is enough. At some point, like, show the evidence, and look, if there's hard evidence, then I'll shut my mouth, because there is evidence that Michigan committed a few level 2 violations during 2020, when, by the way, everybody was doing like Josh Pate says this, and Josh Pate knows all the coaches, and he said what they did was very common in 2020, to like watch people practicing on Zoom, things like that. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I just think it's been kind of overblown, because, like you said, the NCAA, they don't really love Michigan that much, and Harbaugh's been kind of rocking the boat. So we'll see what transpires from there.
Yeah, but you know what's great about it, John? You know what these guys can do is continue to win out of spite. Spite wins all day. I love it. We'll win, and then we can just smile with that Dr. Pepper trophy in our hands, in January, and we're all happy. Who cares? Let's move on, And it goes back to, it's you present the evidence. Here's the thing, if you have something concrete, okay, show it. And then for those of us who are skeptical, then we have no choice but to accept what the facts are. But, that at this point, we're just going to keep going along until you present that,
Yeah. Jay Marion, just keep winning. That's all Michigan can do, is just keep winning, and winning by a lot, so that there's absolutely no doubt. Because if it's one loss between Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and let's face it, the college football playoff may take into consideration this stuff. What we want to do is just make it 13-0, leave zero doubt, get to the playoff, and then do what we need to do to win a postseason game, which is really our next milestone.
Yeah, and not only just because of this investigation stuff, but also, like, unfortunately, like, outside of Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, the rest of the Big Ten is just not very competitive in terms, or how can I put this? They're not perceived to be very good. So your strength of schedule when it comes to a team like Michigan, it's just not very good. It's not very strong. So it's very top heavy, very, very top heavy. So you drop one of those two essential real games on your schedule, it's going to be a real hard. It could be, depending on who it is. It could be kind of hard to come back from that. So, I agree with you. They just need to just keep winning. I'm very excited for the Penn State game in a few weeks. And I think going to Happy Valley, um, in a game that Penn State, obviously, with their back against the wall, they're going to need. It's going to be a really good test for this team, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I am.
Absolutely. So probably stay on a couple more minutes, but Dre, I know you've got to leave us here in a second here. So I just want to make sure you get an opportunity to do a final thought, and then also let people know where they can follow you on the internet.
Absolutely. So, John put my my Twitter link right there. Give me a follow at Dre23MJ. My final thoughts is that it's a great night to be a Michigan Wolverine. It really is. This is one of those games, guys, that quite frankly it's hard to nitpick and say like this can go well. Pretty much everything went well, and a lot of guys make contributions all over the field. Heck, there's even some missed opportunities. Barrett dropped. Michael Barrett dropped a pick that he could have probably took to the house. And he kind of like hit it through his hand on something. He knew he had the ball. It was we could have done, even with the starter still in the game. There were some missed opportunities for us to be even a bigger game. I mean, JJ missing that throw to Morris. He kind of high sailed it. The false start. With Donovan Networks not being set. I'm not too upset at Donovan. That's a very tough situation. I thought maybe they were better suited to just spike the ball, but I think what they were trying to do, and it worked, was to catch MSU without them getting set. But unfortunately, I think it looked like Donovan didn't hear the play, or was like a lot going on.
Donovan needed to stay there just a second.
Stay. Like at that point, he was like, you know what? I don't know the play. I'm just gonna stand here and block.
Yeah.
And that's a missed opportunity, right? You could have won at 35 zip. And I think that would have been to Barner as well. I think that was Barner who caught that ball. There would have been another touchdown for him.
Another one for him, yeah.
Other than that, it's damn near a perfect game, and I think these guys, for a team going to the bye week, you couldn't have had a better type game. So I hope these guys enjoy their time off. They stay locked in, and hopefully some guys who are hurt get healed up. And I guess we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
There you go. Appreciate you, Dre. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
All right, that was Dre. You can follow him at Dre23MJ. He helps me host the Michigan Postgame Live every Saturday night or Saturday after the game. Utah just beat USC 34-32 with the last-second field goal. I have that on my backup TV. All right, let's take some final comments here before we wrap. So many comments. Ishrak, thank you for joining us. I don't think a 2012 win counts as an easily won game. It was a very tight game. Very tight. I will say, though, that Ohio State looked like the better team for almost the whole game. Whereas Penn State, their offense didn't even start to do anything really until the final couple of minutes of the game. And I think that was, so while it looks very close. Like, I watched the whole game, and I'm telling you, Ohio State looked like a football team, and Penn State looked like their defense showed up and their offense was back on the bus. Not great. Budnick, we need Harbaugh back in the I'm assuming this is Ohio or MS. I'm guessing Ohio or Penn State fan. We need Harbaugh back in the khakis if we want to have any shot. John Ebog, go Blue for life. Go Blue, absolutely. Yeah, why would we need to steal signs against Rutgers. They are very scared. And actually, so I spend time on Buckeye shows and Buckeye podcasts, and most of them admit that Michigan's probably going to win this year. Not all, but most. But I am going to need everybody, on that note, to join us right now. In about a minute or two, we're all going to head over to the mega Mark Rogers call-in show, where we do have our Buckeye Trolls. So I need Michigan Wolverine country to start to head on over to the Voice of College Football mega call-in show, which is going to start any minute. And I'm going to put the link right here. Boom. So that link is going to take you straight to the call-in show. Before you leave, though, hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to the Voice of College Football Michigan channel. Because we are still about 1,000 plus below Ohio State, and we don't want that. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell before you leave if you haven't already. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when we're going live. But I need everybody on Wolverine country to get on over there to the big show and take on the Buckeye Trolls, because they're infesting it over there, and we don't want that. We gotta show our amazing, especially with how much they struggled to get today. And Michigan just beat one of our big rivals 49-0. Like let's not tolerate that kind of shenanigans today. I appreciate that, Moose. And yeah, bad offensive play calling for Penn State. Yurcich did a terrible job. Just weird 3rd and 10 QB runs and other runs with like way too much yardage when they should have thrown. It seemed like they had almost no confidence in Drew Aller. Just bad offensive play calling. And I actually like some of the stuff that they do sometimes. I love when they do the wing tee. That always makes me happy when they call throwback plays like that. But like just weird situational awareness from Yurcich in the offensive play call. And part of it might be because Aller's just not a very good quarterback. And when he's facing an elite defense with elite pass rush, he doesn't know what to do. And that also might be part of it too. But yeah, not good. The play calling hasn't been good. Like, let's call it what it is. Play calling hasn't been good since Moorhead. Can we all agree on that? Moorhead was probably the last one who knew how to play call and put the pieces together in a way where they could be a championship team potentially. And they had one of the best running backs in college football with Barkley, and they looked very good, but they really haven't gotten back to that glory since. And they have similar talent. Their talent's there. It's the coaching. All right. With all that said, my name's John Diadamo, and I was your host for the last hour or so. You can follow me on Twix at John Diadamo right there. And we're all going to go. The final score was 49-0. Let me just repeat that because it sounds so good. 49-0. All right. I will see y'all over at the big mega call-in show that's starting. Looks like, it's Renegade. Is it Renegade Report? Okay, Renegade Report. Looks like he's over there. So go on over. Let's support Renegade Report, and I'm assuming Mark at some point will be part of it as well. But I see Renegade Report It's talking now. So let's get on over there. Let's support Renegade Report and our wrap-up live call-in show. Let's go ahead and do that. There it is. And I'll see y'all over there. And until next time, I'm just going to leave that score up. Until next time, go blue. And I'll see you on Monday night for Big Ten Live, the Ocho, 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern. See ya.